Welcome to Reality After Show coverage of the Challenge All-Stars 4. Today we are talking episodes 5 and 6. My name's Dan Montchal and joined always by Alex Trias and Lauren Pratt. Alex, Lauren, how are you two doing today?
I'm going to let Lauren go first.
Yeah, I know I'm going first because Alex is ready to come in hot today on the pod, but I'm great. How are both of y'all?
You know, I'm doing great. I love this season. First off, I'm going to preface it by that. When we get into episode 6, I'm not pulling punches, folks. There's some things that need to be addressed. There's some people that need to be brought down a peg. I'm looking to see if Matt Bischoff came in here because I said the word peg. I know he loves that. Stay on Wednesday, my friend. Stay on Wednesday. You don't have to come in here. But overall, another great streak of episodes. This season is just hitting on all cylinders. And I keep wrapping my head around, like, what is it that's really, like, making me feel that nostalgia hit? And to be honest, and it's biased, and I'll own it, it's Cara Maria. And it's Cara Maria in this spot of me against the entire house. But yet with the touch of the Wes and the bananas of like owning deliberations, getting your agenda across, and through 2 episodes, hey, her 2 friends that called her out, hey, they ain't in that house anymore.
That is true. They aren't there. So we'll start episode 5. Once, as it's been all season, we're getting the recaps from someone who was in elimination. And I thought it was this one coming from Cara. I thought it was pretty good. She actually does give Cam credit for flipping the votes. And she purposely points out Cam, not Jasmine, for flipping Jasmine, which may have been a little slight hand there. But she says at this point right now, she only has one thing on her mind, and that is revenge, which, as you mentioned, Alex, it is kind of more old school, great. Cara's back against the wall. But I feel like what we're also seeing is the twist of that she wants this revenge. Well, in the past, it was kind of, well, I guess I'm just going to go into every single elimination and I'll win and prove myself that way. Where this season, her back is against the wall. She is going to have to prove herself and win some eliminations, but there also is more game savviness to how she's operating throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. And I think what really makes this feel old school is you have a bunch of people outside, like when you compare it to like Challenge 39, Challenge 38, whatever. It's like you have these people that are here to play a fucking game, but at the same time, they are petty, they are hypocritical, and they let emotional feelings get in the way of what they know is strategically the right move. And that's the challenge. Like, that's the challenge seasons that we know and love so well. Like, you think about free agents. Was it smart of Jordan to pull all the cards? No. But he was emotional. He had an ego. And he was like, you know what? Fuck everything. I'm going to put on a show. And then he went home. It's like, you have these moments for a reason because that's what the challenge is all about. It's not always about making all the right, correct moves. It's not about having 1 million pregame alliances or just, kissing the taint of the vacation alliance. Like, just do your stuff, be messy, and it's fun.
The only person that's not messy is Keefla. Keefla's just there to ride it out and see how Keefla does.
Ace is just sleeping in random spots.
Well, I forgot. Honestly, I forgot about Ace. That's
how can you forget him after episode 6 when he comes out in a pimp jacket?
Well, you know what? We're talking about episode 5, and that's why I forgot.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Episode 5, full credit there.
When we get to 6, then Ace gets more on my radar, but 5 just went straight over my head.
Well, what's great about with All Stars is all of these people, not only have we known them forever, like even someone like Cam, like she's been someone who, if you're following the challenge, has been in our lives for a while because it's been since 31. But you think all of these people came from an MTV show, whether it was Road Rules, Real World, or even Are You the One? Dating shows. And those type of shows, it's more of that docu-style, hey, we're going to film your life, let's make the moments. And so I think that's always been ingrained in him is I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to have my moment. I'm going to make great TV. And it's where we see now in the newer seasons where we have people from, Survivor, Big Brother, and the foreign shows everywhere else. Their first kind of introduction to them being on reality TV was game related. And that's all they can ever think of. Where All Stars, it's nice and refreshing. And it's a game, but I'm going to get my TV moment as well.
I keep praying for Challenge 40. I keep praying, knowing what we know about that season, that we get that spice that we're getting in this season to counteract what we know will ultimately be the outcome of Challenge 40. But for the ride, I'm praying. But let's get back. We're focusing on episode 5. Where are we, Dan?
With Ace, right?
Yes. No, we're about 35 minutes from mentioning Ace's name. So when we come back into the house after Kara's recap, we get, little snippets from both Jasmine and Brandon, because it's where her anger is directed at. And so Jasmine asks, why would you give her a star? That's her ticket to the final. And Brandon is worried about the retaliation of being thrown into elimination, but especially with Guy's Day looming, but he's still kind of stuck by his guns, being like, I did what I had to do.
Yeah. And you know what? I respect it, because you're going to hear me throughout the course of this podcast talking about who's making it about the game and who's making it personal. Because the people who make it about the game, that's still fun TV. The people that are making it personal but think that they're being about the game, I don't respect. But Brandon Sondai, it's hard not to respect him. It's hard not to just want to root for him. Even if he's going against someone that I like in Kara, it's I want to root for him. I want to see him do well. But then he gets that confession. I'm like, oh no. I fear for you, Brandon.
Yeah, I don't know how someone doesn't like Brandon. I mean, you go back to his first time on the challenge was Fresh Meat 2, and he's just there having a good time, and he gets eliminated. Now going into that, the breakfast beers. He's never done anything that's been all that wrong. He had his moments later in Cutthroat where he's dominating eliminations. I don't see where you can point to anything and not being he's fun for the show, and he just seems like a genuinely good dude.
I loved that he didn't go back and forth with his decision either. He owned it and went with it. Whereas some people, we see the clip back of, did I make the right decision? Was it actually good for my game? No, he owned it and said, if it does backfire, well, at least I still made a point in the game, what was best for me to win a final if I get to a final.
Yeah, it's same with Jasmine. I gave Jasmine shit the past couple weeks, but I'm like, hey, the one thing you can't say about her is that she doesn't stand 10 toes down on any decision that she makes. She's like, I don't regret a single thing. It is what it is. We're going to keep moving. I don't want to see her in a final. I'm like, good on you. Good on you, Jasmine, who should have gotten a better edit this season based off what we learned throughout the course of episode 6.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Next, we see a few kind of snippets of Leroy. We see Leroy giving Adam a haircut. They get to talk a little bit, but then really where it goes into is Leroy talking about him having to go to counseling with the birth of his child. And it's the one thing I've always loved about Leroy is I feel like there is no holding back with him. Everything's raw. He's not afraid to talk about anything. And I think, it's just something that it's nice to see, because normally there'd be, that stigma against it in the past of, the male going to counseling, especially after, the childbirth. But he's willing to talk about pretty much everything on this show.
Did you know he had a son named Kingston?
Really?
All jokes aside, I loved this moment with him. It's like you said. He's just, I feel like he strives so hard to be what wasn't provided to him when he grew up. Mm-hmm. And you hear that throughout that course of the episode. He wants to break this stigma of his child not growing up with a working family, a absent father or whatever. It's he wants to be there for his kid, and in order to be there for his kid, he doesn't just have to be prepared and healthy physically, but he needs to be prepared and healthy mentally, which is why understanding depression, understanding the stuff that you're going through, and taking the vulnerability of going to counseling, like all support to him.
Leroy too is always so genuine with his words and how he talks to people and how he's speaking to them. And I just don't think anyone doesn't have respect for Leroy. Everyone loves Leroy because he's always been himself. He's always been this way.
Agreed. Yeah. We'll get back to, more Leroy, but right now we have a brief pause in the action so we can look at this beautiful, disastrous train wreck happening that is Nicole and Laurel chasing each other around the house, wrestling, and their whole theory of not talking to each other went out the window real quick, and they're just getting closer day by day.
And this is the issue of never having real closure.
Yeah.
Is it opens the door for people, Laurel, to get feelings again. Because I can tell you only one side had feelings there. The other one had one specific feeling. And
It's
it's just
obvious.
horniness.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Hit it on the head.
Yeah, we keep watching this week after week, and especially, for people that have caught up, they know what's happening like current day because we've seen all of Laurel's tweets in the past. It's just like, oh no, don't do it. Oh, you're gonna do it. Yeah, of course you are. And
the worst is there was some like current, like newer challenge people that were live reacting to like the episode as they were watching it, and some of them talking about, oh, I love how much Nicole and Laurel are so happy together and looking so nice and laughing. I was like, you know what happens.
You know the
Why are you
aftermath.
putting this out on social media? Oh,
They can't sit here and say.
It's just so bad. It's so bad. And it's like, for a brief moment in time in this episode, you as a fan are like, wait, why is it that it's Nicole who's like reacting the way that they probably should be reacting to this situation? But it all goes away. It all goes away as soon as episode 6 is drop your pants. But
yeah, we get there because even Flora makes the comment to Nicole being like, I think you're leading Laurel on.
Yeah, Mama Flora.
Because
like we learned through this time that like, and from some of the exits, that Flora and Nicole were very close. Like Nicole had a lot of respect for Flora. They both had a good relationship with Jasmine, which makes the episode 6 of it all just even more wild of what goes on there. But yeah, no, like Flora says the right things there. It's like, it doesn't matter what you're saying to me right now. Like your actions don't match up to the words that you are saying here. And someone like Laurel is going to look at the actions that you're doing, not the words that you are saying.
We had Flora on the season though, because she brings a lot to it, even if it's small little snippets such as that specific moment. But even her confessionals in general, it's going to be a banger, whatever she says, because most of it is funny.
Well, she only shit herself this one time because her daughter plays tennis against people 10 times her size.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's about the best. She's there, and we get
some
good moments, but they're kind of few and far between.
But I'm saying when it's there, it's there. That's what my point is. I'm fine with you have to have those specific people though on the show. You can't have everyone that's always going to steal all the limelight. But when you get the little snippets of each person that's not the huge star of the season, it still hits.
For sure.
Yeah.
It'll just hit for this one specific season because I do not think we see her again.
No, I don't think so. But it's exciting to see new people that we haven't seen come back. I'm glad they're still giving those people opportunities still.
Mm-hmm.
No, completely agree with that. Moving on, we see a conversation between Cam and Leroy, and Leroy's like, hey, I don't know how we got here. I think we need to get back on the same page. Let's all go have a conversation with Cam. And well, there's a way that Leroy wanted this conversation to go, and this ain't it.
Well, you see, the issue of being the mediator is you actually have to actively mediate. And Leroy's like, I will put you two into the room. I will be in the room. I will not say a word. But then you also have the branding of it all in there too. And like, look, Cam is ridiculous for hiding behind the I needed everyone to show their support for me and me singularly by voting the exact way that I wanted. And you obviously had a hidden agenda to save Rachel. And Carl's like, no, I just had an agreement with Rachel to not say her name. You still got both those people. I didn't try to keep Rachel out. Like, you just want to be against me in the game. No, now I do. Now I'm like, okay, Cam, I see the game you're playing. It's all good. It's all good. Hey, look, Polly's fine with Cam on social media about it all. So I'm not gonna get angry at Cam for literally no reason.
Yeah, and it's just all summed up at the end by, Leroy going, well, this conversation was absolutely pointless. Good job, guys. Let's go to this challenge.
But before that, she also has like the confrontation with Brandon. And again, I think Brandon would have been better off just saying, look, we haven't talked in over 8 years. I also see you as the best player in this game right now for a final. I don't want to see you there. And I think Carr stops right then and there. Like, you know what? I hate that you did it to me, but it is what it is. But he has to go into like all these descriptions and sure, you're saying a lot of major life events that someone that's saying that they're your friend should know. Like he's going out there being like, I got married. I had 2 kids. My dad died. I almost died twice. I got divorced. Like I have all these like major life events that have happened in the 8 years and you've never reached out to me in that time. So are we really friends? And even if we are just friends on the show, only one person wins in this game. And I'm not going to sacrifice my chance to win just because I'm friends with you.
Right. All she really wanted to hear there was him say, I can't beat you. I had to do what was best for my game. And she would have been, as we said, just fine with that. And I think she would continue to move on. She just wants to hear people admit it. I cannot beat you. So this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she wants.
And is that part of that ego in Cara? Of course. But guess what? When you're considered one of the best performers in challenge history, man or woman, like you sort of get the right to have a bit of an ego about how good you are.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing new. We've seen it from all the greats. All of them have some type of ego.
Yeah. And it's not just in the challenge, major sports too. Yeah. You have to have an ego to be at the dance, baby.
Yeah. No, 100%. Moving on to the daily, we have a little bit of a flashback. This is it's bobblehead bobsled, which is something that's very similar to what we saw in the Duel 2. It was nice to see this back. It's kind of this goofy, wacky challenge. So for this, they're splitting up into teams. You start at the base of the hill. When TJ blows the horn, he starts down the track. The rest of the team goes. They have to run over to get into their carts. When TJ gets to the bottom, he releases a valve to their water to start depleting it. As the team's going down the track, they have the opportunity to collect bags. So when they get to the end, they can help replenish their tube.
Yep. Straightforward challenge. Love seeing TJ giddy and being involved in a challenge. And yeah, it was like a very straightforward challenge. Like both this one and the daily in episode 6, it's like it really goes to show, and I hope the main show listens. We know it isn't, and we know there's going to be 20 episodes where 19 episodes are them on a high rise with explosions. You don't need the pomp. We don't need the circumstance. Straightforward challenge. This is a thing that you are doing. Do it fast. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't straightforward for one person. When we'll get there. Brad. It was not straightforward for Brad.
I mean, we can jump straight in there. They're the first group. It's Brad, Nicole, Leroy, and Jasmine. And like how it goes down is Brad says he wants to go first because he's done this challenge before on the Duel 2. And Leroy's like, okay, cool. Like as long if he's confident, go for it. That helps keep me safe. It does not help keep him safe.
Which it does have the bobblehead, so that part of it's true, but the Duel 2 daily was completely different. Like, sure, they're going down a track, but in the Duel 2, their race, it was like a relay style with your partner. You're racing up the hill, and then coming down, you tag your partner who does the same thing, and then you're doing a puzzle. You're not collecting stuff with it. So I guess Brad, yes, has had a bobblehead on before, but that's about all Brad has done before.
I heard someone saying, like, what, did Brad just take like a bunch of pre-workout right before they went? Because dude was like, all you have to do is grab like the string and pull it down, or just like grab one and like put it down in your pouch, in your shirt, whatever. This dude's like fully grasping it and like making them explode, pop everywhere. Like, he's messing it up. It's hilarious hearing like Nicole just yelling at him the entire way down. And like, so they flop, and it's one of those times where those rare instances where you just see Leroy, who understands the situation he is in the game, especially right after that conversation with Cam and Kara, is like, well, fuck, Brad. Like, what the hell are you doing? As soon as you mess up the first time, change it. Slow down. Do something different. And he's like cursing up a storm. He's heated, and you never see Leroy heated. And we've seen it twice this season so far. So that this, I don't know if it's just the pressure of not doing well right now, or the pressure knowing that by being down at the bottom, it gives Kara a chance to put him in. But the stress is getting to him.
What I've learned is that we've been deprived of, because I believe this is only the second season that we've seen Leroy and Brad on the same season. We're deprived of not having that, because every time that Leroy gets the opportunity to do his Brad impression, it's phenomenal. It was great in Vendettas. It's great here. I just want to see more of it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But yeah, so they sucked.
Yeah, they don't end up doing well. Brad says he screwed up, and this one will haunt him forever.
Good.
Don't worry, Brad.
I hope it haunted him enough to shave his beard.
Oh, let's not get ridiculous.
That's not going to happen. I mean, maybe when he wins.
His beard is on the Anissa level of hate for me.
Well, yeah, but he needs to keep it growing, because when he finally shaves that, when he wins All-Stars 15, like, that thing's going to be glorious.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about how he's just growing the beard until he wins another championship.
He's waiting on that opportunity for sure.
So second team to go is the orange team. That's Tina, Cam, Steve, Derek, and Keefla. And this is another great one where Steve says this requires hands, and he's the hand model. He's got them, so this should be made for him.
But you know who it was made for? And Derek.
What a beast of 2 episodes for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, Derek's on the rise. Like, is this the Derek that we've been deprived of as like a competitor for so many seasons, just because he would always just be like, oh, he's someone we can throw in first because not as connected, whatever. I feel before All-Stars 4 and spoiler alerts, he's on season 40. I think he's done a lot of work, not just to be ready for a challenge, but to be ready for a challenge in terms of the social, political, like, connections of it all. Like, he's been going to all the challenge manias. He's been reconnecting with both the OGs and current challenge players. Like, I was like coming in, like, I wasn't sure what to expect from Derek, but I've been pleasantly impressed.
He's done really well, and I think even going back, we haven't seen a ton of them, but I thought he always did well in the dailies where he was around. To me, I just think like he's almost the anti-Leroy, where Leroy has always been pretty bad at the dailies, but great at elimination. Derek's just kind of been the opposite. I think that he's always been at least passable, if not good at the dailies. It's just eliminations have never been his thing.
Right. And I think he needed to get over that hump of not being one of the first people put into elimination, because that's what always happens. He goes in too early and then ends up not winning, typically because it's a headbanger normally, and just size-wise, Derek struggles with that. But I'm glad to see him doing well. I'm glad to see him doing well.
He does have a quote-unquote headbanger winner when he was with Rob, where they beat Dunbar and Tyree, just so we can bring them up.
Well, Tyree, and
man.
also on the other
I
side
remember
with
that one
Dunbar.
too.
Okay.
Rivals too.
Rivals
Let's be clear
too.
here. The matchup still Tyree and Dunbar, okay? I know Dunbar's won one, but
Challenge
still,
champion Dunbar.
from
Man.
Cutthroat.
A little side tangent there. I've been going back into the old seasons, and one season I just rewatched was The Island, and
It's a rough one.
Dunbar on that season. I don't know if I've seen, and I've seen someone with more air around him about like how deserving he is of the win after getting his like key for the final handed to him. Like he did absolutely nothing in the game.
Yeah, Abram just
And
gave
then,
it to him.
and then when it's ripped away from him right at the very end by Evelyn was a perfect moment for me. Just a little sidebar for our little mocking of Dunbar.
Well, if we can go through just to hit another favorite, that if you're looking for someone who has such an air about him, I present you Danny Jameson. Wasn't on that season for the key, but has always handled himself like he's top dog.
See, I'm a little annoyed you brought up Danny Jameson because he was gonna be referenced later in this podcast.
Too soon, Dan.
Well,
Too
he beat me to the punch the past few episodes. I needed to get my shots in early on Danny.
That's fair.
I'll think of some other ones to throw in there. Don't worry. We'll get there for and you'll know when I was meaning to reference him.
So next team up is the red team. That is Cara, Lauren's favorite ace, Veronica, Adam, and Jay, and they have a completely different strategy.
Handicap mode.
Yep.
But it's so interesting because I listened to some of the clips of Nicole's interview that she did with Zach Nichols' podcast, and she mentioned how they were told they're not allowed to stop on the track. And I'm like, well, if they told you that, they didn't police it because we literally have footage of everyone on Cara's group stopping full stop at their station to grab the water.
But is Nicole sure she heard the rules correctly? Because I think sometimes it could just go right over her head.
Do you think it was explained to her in like a Staten Island Bronx hybrid accent that she would have understood it?
Not even that, no. I just think it just goes in one ear out the other, what she hears most of the time.
I'm just trying to say, like, if she heard it in her native tongue, maybe she would have really understood it.
Well, then they need to get someone on production to speak just how Nicole does for the future.
No, we're good. But so that red team, they collect all the bags,
but they're slow as fuck.
Yeah, they're slow. They're stopping at everything. But everyone does see how much water they have, so people are worried.
And you know, I would say this isn't a horrible strategy to do. It's like because you have this balance of if you have a star and you don't win, you could potentially lose your star. But when you're in a position where you know the format of the season is if you can be in the middle, you're safe and you have voting power. I'm not totally against going slow and also ensuring you get the maximum amount of bags to give yourself the best chance of having the most water. Because sure, the time thing, I don't understand truly how they measured everything there of the time and
liquid
the amount
per
of water.
second.
Sure.
That's what we were told.
I would love TJ to explain to me the math of a liquid per second, but to each their own. However, it's like I feel like that gives you the best opportunity to ensure you're in the middle of the pack. So maybe you don't want to win there, and it's like, okay, I don't want to win, but I don't want to be in the bottom. Let's slow it down. Let's ensure we grab as many of the bags as possible and fill it up. I also love that they used the bucket. Like no one else used the bucket. I'm like, that's such a surefire way to ensure you don't spill.
I don't know why no one else used the bucket. Yeah.
Well, as Veronica says in episode 6, a lot of these people have low IQs.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it too. They have the advantage of also seeing people go before them. So that helps as well. And you see what tactics they use and say, okay, that worked, that didn't work. So we're going to try this and see if we can do a better showing than they can.
Oh, you mean, oh, let's not choke the water bags to death upon reaching it?
Hey, just pull down the whole structure next time while you're at it.
I'm just going to say that if you're looking to pursue some one-on-one time with Brad, you might have to be a little more specific when you say how hard.
Brad is
oh my god,
he's an interesting character. Last team to go is the dark blue team, which is Laurel, Brandon, Flora, Ryan, and Avery.
I knew I was missing someone in my notes. I forgot Avery.
Yeah, well, she's kind of disappeared the past few episodes. But I mean, they do like fine, but their biggest hiccup is that Ryan still has a bag that's in his shirt that he doesn't get out.
And we don't know for sure. Like, it's possible if he didn't forget that one, maybe they were a little bit faster. They're the ones in the middle. And I feel like that's what they were trying to insinuate there.
Mm-hmm.
But, the better result happened.
Yeah, definitely.
So, hand model Steve wins for the team. I'm going to just give him the full credit because, it was a hands challenge after all.
Oh, or you could say it was a hand job.
He loves, Steve himself says he loves giving hand jobs.
Loves it. It's his favorite. That's his moneymaker, his hands.
Yeah. Money shot.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Steve's hand job orange team wins. The two losing teams are the light and dark blue, making up Kara's team, that red team that is the middle group, picking who's going to go in. And Kara says the first thing that's on her mind is returning fire, which puts Brandon and Leroy square in her sights.
Yeah, and really, when it comes to the nomination of it all of them are sort of like on the same page there. Like, Adam's like, well, they're taking my star because Kifla and Steve are safe, and it's a guy's day. So he's like, no matter what, I'm losing my star. So, fuck all of them. Put two headbangers in there. Yeah, let's put Leroy and let's put Leroy and Brandon in. Jay says Leroy but doesn't say Brandon because I guess like they met each other sometimes in Vegas or whatever, so there's some friendship there. Jay's very interesting in these two episodes because like he's also someone who's, I feel, low-key playing a decent social game where he feels like connected to a bunch of people, or it's just his like sense of like, I don't know, morality, integrity, whatever. But he has like this feeling of needing to help all these people when he also understands that he's probably low on the list of all of them. It's very interesting just seeing because he's also someone who's never on the bottom. He's never on the bottom and like available for elimination. He's an enigma.
I'm curious to know y'all's thoughts. If, say, Brandon does not screw Carr over the previous week, who do y'all think goes in?
Who are our options? It's Ryan, Leroy, Brandon, and Brad. It's Ryan.
It's Ryan. Or you throw in Leroy and Brad. And
that's what I was saying.
Taking out a heavy hitter.
Well, the only thing is Kara doesn't screw over her friends, and I think Kara and it's like an underreported thing of Kara and Brad are most likely working together on this season. So like you think of even back to like Vendetta. It's like the reason why he had a vendetta with Kyle was solely because of Kara, and his friendship to Kara. And I feel like Kara understands that she can't take a shot at a friend. She'll only do it if they shoot first. So I don't see a world where she votes Brad, but potentially some of these other people would have.
Yeah, because I think Adam would have done it. I think Adam said my star's going to be taken no matter what. So, because I think in that scenario, Kara's not going to turn on Brandon if Brandon didn't turn on her first. Because as you said, she's all friendship based. She looks out for her people. Hopefully those people look out for her in return is what she expects from them. So I think it would have been just interesting to see the dynamic of it, had that have happened, I still think you get the same result. I think Leroy, no matter who he goes against there, because we've seen recently with Brad's not thinking too hard. So I still think Leroy probably pulls out that win in the elimination no matter who he goes against.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because let's okay. Leroy and Brandon are the vote.
I just want to say Brad's not thinking too hard. I disagree. I think he is thinking hard. I just think that his engine's a little bit overworked.
It's a little it's running on overdrive for him when he looks and he's like, you have to go down a slide. Okay, I got it. I can be so fast. I can be so fast right now. I'm gonna take another finger pre-workout. I got this. You also have to grab stuff while you're going down. And then you see like all like that the hangover, like all the numbers are coming up, but instead it's like just a bunch of squiggly lines because the challenge, they don't know math. And it's just like, oh, I can do that. I can grab all of them. I lift weights. I can grab all of them. It's no different than me grabbing these dumbbells and putting them in the air. It's just bringing them back down. And then all the rest of it is just like, nope. Can't think more than two things. Can't think more than two things here.
So we covered the nominations. They said it was really straightforward. Before getting into the elimination, there were just a few things. One, I did love Brandon's call home because his daughter thinks that he's in Wakanda doing heroes work. I just thought that was adorable.
And he is.
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought that was so sweet. It also ties into the whole like I love you 20,000 like of it all, like that's like Avengers Endgame of it all. So it was adorable seeing him talk to his daughter. But then I was also like, fuck,
yeah,
he's going home.
Exactly.
It's setting a bad precedent that we have of if you see someone getting their call from home, it's like, oh no.
Yeah, totally. But we go to this elimination. What's the elimination called, Dan? I don't have it in my note.
Yeah, I have it. So the only other stuff that was there was more Laurel and Nicole stuff, but we've hit on that. We will continue to hit on it moving forward. So we're just going to skip over that.
They are hitting each other for all we know.
Well, if they weren't, they're about to. Elimination is mission improbable. This is a giant maze in the middle of arena. You're hovering over the maze with rope attached to your arms and feet, and that's how you move it. You want to get 5 balls to the center in their spot.
Devin has this as a coffee table. Did you know that?
Probably.
But anyway, I love this challenge because it's something so simple. It's like it's those little toys that you get when you're a kid that have like all of it. You like try to put everything in. I love making it just like Mission Impossible themed though. I've done it over it because it's what Brandon says later on. Like, you think it looks light, it's not light. It's exhausting. You are using every muscle in your body. And the most important one, your brain. So good thing Brad didn't go down into this elimination. However, I'm still flabbergasted here that Leroy ultimately won. Because like I'm with Steve, where it's like on paper, Brandon should win. Like Brandon's actually like putting a lot of thought into it. He's trying to use all of his muscles like purposely to get everything going. Whereas Leroy's just like, as if he's on a bucking bronco. He's just like all over the place, like herky jerking it everywhere. Like, Steve used that reference because he does love his hand jobs. So you have to be jerking it. But Leroy pulls this out and I'm like, good on you, man. But if we're being real, there's no reason Leroy should have won this.
So the only thing that I did see, at least, from what we're shown, is because we do see Brandon go up 3-0, but it looks like Brandon is really he looks methodical. He's moving forward where Leroy's kind of all over the place. But if you notice, when Leroy starts getting his balls in, almost all 5 of them are close to the center, which so his herky jerkiness kind of worked out for him because they all ended up kind of in that middle area where Brandon.
So just through pure luck, Leroy gets the win.
It could have. I have no idea.
There's no strategy to herky jerky.
Well, sometimes it just works out, and it worked out for him. But I do have one issue with production. I would have taken that for Rachel and Cara. I would have, versus what we got with the throwing. I would have been fine with that. Strength, being able to get the balls in. I would have been fine with that. But instead, they gave us what they gave us. I would have much rather have seen the two eliminations flip. I would have rather seen Leroy versus Brandon in the throwing, and then the two ladies with the Mission Impossible.
Nah, I wanted Brandon and Leroy in the fireman's pole. Or the horizontal fireman's pole of having to go back and forth.
I just think it was upsetting. Now, it stung because it was Cara versus Rachel in that previous elimination, but I don't think there's any world where it doesn't. I mean, it could have been Jay versus Derek or something like that, and it still would have been like, yeah, well, that elimination kind of sucked.
Oh yeah, there's no pairing that you're like, oh, this is good. Like that's the type of elimination when you were like, oh, we already have 2 duds in the elimination. Let's just do something that'll be hilarious for us.
Or
it's
you
like
that's my point.
You do that for Jasmine versus Laurel. That way, it completely like makes it random.
Or you just do it for Jasmine versus Veronica instead of seeing them potentially go into something very physical against each other.
Right. No, that's true. I'm not saying don't get me wrong. The elimination that was the week before, I thought it was terrible. Maybe a little bit of humor in it. I don't need to see that elimination back, but I was just saying I would rather flip the people around because of entertainment value.
Well, also, so Brandon's already had kids. He's had them. Well, he wasn't able to channel Wakanda into his board. But Leroy sure as hell channeled Kingston into that board, into that elimination tonight. Kingston was in the star. Kingston was channeling through him, through Cam, through production. Kingston won the elimination tonight.
Let's just call it for season 40. You have 3 options. Give us the same thing. You pick 2 of the 3 between Leroy, Corey, and Tony. Just see who can channel it the best. They're doing it for their family.
Always. Always for the fam.
But Leroy wins. He wins 5-4. It does look like Brandon's getting close, but he's just gassed. So, unfortunately, he has to go. TJ does give him a pretty nice send-off. Mm-hmm. And as expected, Leroy takes Adam's star.
And we will see, and with the marvel of it all, and Brandon will be back in the challenge.
We won't have to wait long.
I'm excited for that. I'm glad to see
I'm so happy that they're like, yeah, we saw enough from you here. You're on the short list for it. So that ends episode 5. Let's get into episode 6.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets spicy. Let's do it.
Episode 6, Karma Maria. And I do love the intro this time with Leroy because it starts out and you see all the bloopers of him carrying the bag, and which does
go into acting, they said.
Yeah. And then he just has some great lines as he's going through when he's talking about trying to get Cara and Cam together. He calls himself Dr. Phil. He just says Nicole and Laurel got it on. And when he's talking about the challenge, he goes, "Thanks for nothing, Brad."
Spot on. But how many takes
if we ever have another Rivals season, we have our next pairing.
Yeah.
Roy and Brad. It's there.
Go ahead.
No, if you had something, I was just going to move.
No, I did not. I did not.
Okay, perfect. All right. We start out this episode. We're seeing Cam, just see more of their relationship, how thankful and proud of she is of Leroy winning the elimination. And Leroy does mention that he's like, he needed this for his confidence because he had been sucking, in his words, which he has. He's been in the bottom all the time.
That's a weird way to pronounce he needed to do it for Kingston.
Well, maybe it's just because I'm not a father. I don't take everything back to the kids. I don't know.
Well, he's doing it for Kingston. If you weren't aware, if you were not aware, they really made sure you knew.
I choose to not take my notes that way, and I'm just fine with reading subtext.
He did it for Kingston. Just had to say it one more time in case no one heard before.
Yeah.
Also, great name for a kid.
Mhm.
I love it. Okay, go for it. I'm done with my bit. I'm done.
So Kara's talking, and we see that her plan is now it's Operation Keep Cam and Leroy out, because she doesn't want Leroy to go back in to steal a star for Cam, and obviously doesn't want Cam to go into elimination because it's obvious whose star she'll steal.
Yep. Yeah, Kara's understands the game now. We're now at the point of the game where you, as the star holder who knows you have enemies, you're like, there's two options: win the daily, or ensure your really good enemies can't touch the star. So you will have to do whatever means necessary. Some people on this cast might call that selfish. Some smarter people would say, this is what Kara understands she has to do in a game where only one person can win $250,000. Because when all of you say it, it's fine. But when Kara says it, oh, she's selfish.
But what's so good for her is she can put aside the pettiness, because some people don't have that mindset. Okay, let's go click into the game mode. What's best for the actual game? Because you do see in many seasons, people will say, I still want my revenge no matter if it tanks my game. I just want to see this person go home before I go home, which that shows Kara winner mindset there versus, all right, I got someone out that I wanted out, but now let's rewind, rework what's going to best format for my game moving forward.
Well, I can say you sort of have both there. Like what you're saying is absolutely correct. And it is what she says to Ryan there. It's like, I'm not going to just consistently target people. They took one shot at me. I took one shot at them. It's now the ball is in their court. If they decide to do it, then it allows me to go after them again. I personally would just like to remove myself from the situation and just be someone who has a star. I have enough issues already. But the petty thing is to keep them out of elimination, and then like you have what Ryan and Derek have mentioned in the past is what if I get to the end and I just got blocked out or never had the opportunity to go down in elimination and get a star, or have someone get a star for me. So you sort of have both of it, if that makes sense.
Right. But then also you do still have an opportunity to get yourself in there. You just have to win a daily challenge. So that's the thing. It's you're not completely blocked out in this game. If you win and you have the chance to put yourself in, that's your opportunity right there. So you still have chances. So she can't say the whole time that I was blocked out, I never got a chance to go in and earn the star. You do. You just didn't win.
And for some of them, they have had a shot already and chose not to go in.
Exactly.
That's very true. But you brought up, it was that conversation with Kara and Ryan, and that's really what I want to hit on is Ryan here, because I know the conversation's mostly about Kara, but we see from Ryan talking about how he isn't sure which side he wants to go to. He's talking about, he does have good relationships with both Kara and Cam, and he is comfortable playing the middle. And I just want to highlight Ryan here because it's someone that if he's given the opportunity, there are very few people that can play the middle the way that we've seen Ryan do in the past. I was almost disappointed when he said, I've done this in the past. They didn't show the highlights of him doing that exact same thing in Fresh Meat 2 between Wes and Kenny. Because if you go back to that time, that mindset, it was Bananas wasn't Bananas yet. He was
John.
Yes, and CT was still just a bit aggro and couldn't keep himself in check. So especially on the season that they were on, but just in general for that season, like that time of a few seasons around, Kenny and Wes were two of the best playing the game. As everyone looked at it that way, we've seen their moves. It was great. And Ryan played them both like a fiddle, playing the middle, playing both sides. And so seeing if he can do that again between Kara and Cam, it's really interesting to me.
It's also interesting, though, because he's like, oh, I see both sides, and we see the ultimate decision he decides to ride with for the time being. And I don't blame him, because he's like, well, we're still early-ish in the game. there's one side that has massive numbers, and then there's one side that has Cara Maria, which in some aspects is just as dangerous. Keep things topical and age this podcast. It's just like Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Drake has all of his ghostwriters, so he says that's 20-on-1. Kendrick says it in his diss. He's like, you can go 20-on-1. I don't care. I will still murder all of you. So it's like, what side do you want to pick? Do you want to pick the person who uses AI in his songs, or do you want to pick the person who's actually the most talented person? Numbers or talent? What do you want?
Yeah, well, if this was a team game too, everyone would be like, yes, put Cara on my team, but it's individual. So that's why it's riding out the way it is thus far.
Yeah, and then here we go as we're getting some classic fun challenge moments. Is I forget the exact phrasing for it. All that I recognized was that Steve does carry around duct tape and zip ties because I guess that just helps him, because if somebody doesn't want a hand job, he's like, damn it, you're getting one. This is my livelihood.
And he's just throwing that bag around.
Yeah, that Bulgarian bag. And it's
that Bulgarian bag, yes.
Everyone
slapped everywhere.
Everyone is going to see him using it, and they're just going to come out. They're going to want to use it. And so Cara says, there's only 2 channels on this house. There's Steve in the Wild, and there's Ace in Places.
And you know what? This brought Ace out of the Anissa tier for me this episode. So I'm like, I actually laughed seeing him literally in like a kneeling mode on the couch, just passed out. I loved it. I loved Ace this episode. It's like great. Just hilarious. Like as soon as you just like let it be that Ace is just this weird guy that has like this extremely almost not capable of be understood moral complex on a show that's meant to be everything that he seems to be actively against. Just like almost sleepwalking through the game and getting awarded for it.
Yeah.
I just always get surprised because when we finally do see confessionals from him, which are few and far between, it does pop up and say finalists. I'm like, that's not right. Then I'm like, oh, that's right. He did somehow make it to the end of Inferno 3, but you never remember that.
No one remembers that.
I don't know.
There's only one thing I'll always remember about Ace. And it's when he signed up for a side job as a plunger.
That'll never get old.
Very effective. Very effective.
But this entire scene here of, the of Steve in the Wild and Ace in Places, like it's just such a classic reality TV scene that it's like, wow, why can't we get this on the main show?
And I love him like scouring the land to find berries. Like, he's a weird cat.
Oh yeah. He's something else.
But like that's something we would be deprived of if we didn't have All-Stars. Like having him, having Kefla, like these people that competed like way back in the day, and then throwing them into the current day environment, but they still have the flavors of what brought them to the dance, and that's them being weird. I'm like, cool. Give me more of weird Steve giving hand jobs to berries.
It's just perfect. And it's not, I don't have a good transition here, but just going what I thought was funny. Yeah, hand job. Well, Laurel and Nicole. And there's something here that Laurel says that
finger job.
She might regret saying, especially in her current mindset, when they're talking and figuring stuff out is, well, when I love someone, I'm always going to love them. Really, Laurel?
Really? Right now. Not now.
Look, I sympathize with a romantic. Laurel, I get it, but not with this one. Not with this one. You are romanticizing the challenge of someone that is impossible to reach outside of Asana.
We'll get there.
All we know is not in the bed. They stay true to that. The boundary is not in Nicole's bed.
From what
and
we're
Jay
shown,
is thankful for that.
From what we're shown, but yes, Nicole was creating boundaries.
If they were caught in bed, Mama Flora would have to put Nicole over her knee and spank her.
If only Nicole wouldn't like that too much.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't want to picture that. Let's.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about the daily. Take a seat. Take a seat.
A simple challenge. Simple challenge, and I love it. Explain it, Dan.
Yeah, so essentially you're just playing musical chairs. So they're in a stadium. TJ's going to call out a section, a row, and seat numbers. You're in pairs. You're racing to get there, and each time he calls out a different section, one pair is eliminated. You want to try to go around it's like the 4 rounds that you can go because you have an advantage moving into phase 2.
Was it really? This advantage is the same type of advantage you would get in the modern finals, where you do a full day and a half stuff of work, your body's aching, and they're like, okay, so the last part of the final is this 3-mile uphill hike. Because you won the first day, you get a 30-second head start. That's what this was. Like, Laurel says it best. Like, this is how you know the advantage. It's like Survivor, the whole "this is not an advantage" like moment. Like, we got out first because Brad was an idiot. Can we argue? Because we can't really because of the result. But in theory, Brad was actually the smartest person competing today.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I can argue against that.
He knew that the advantage wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Before we have Brad's whole situation, I just want to do that. We're really seeing, this is Ace's episode because he is incredibly butthurt that Cara did not pick him as a partner.
Yeah, this is was so interesting because we almost always gets brushed past when they get to pick themselves who they're pairing up with. Outside of you'll always get one of the 2 people who are like, well, everyone else automatically picked people, so we sort of got stuck together. But in this one, you had a lot of people, they purposely showed in the footage, everyone, sort of jockeying for who would be partnered up with who.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I loved that whole thing with Ace and Cara. Just I love Ace. Ace has been bitching about his knee all day, and this is a sprinting competition. Maybe I don't want to be partnered with Ace.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. They just thought it was a running competition. They didn't know about the part 2 yet.
They weren't told about part 2.
Well, see, I don't blame her then by doing that partnership.
She picks her number 2 in Jay. Right,
exactly. Had you known the full piece of it, I think she does go with Ace because, like she said, Ace is the brains.
Yeah, and again, just to say, my winner pick Jay is still looking pretty good in these episodes. 6 episodes in. He's Cara's number 2 pick.
How's he getting
behind Ace?
Getting the star.
Hey, someone will get if Cara has to go down and she already has her star and wins a star. She could just give Jay a star.
We'll see. It's maybe.
That's how Jay is getting a star. Jay is getting a star because someone is handing him a star.
Jay's not making it to the final. He's not getting there.
But if he does, he has a chance because he's an endurance type of person.
Has a chance at what? 3rd place?
Who was y'all's winner pick from the guys? Who was y'all's winner picks for the guys?
Mine? I think mine was Tony.
He's gone. What was yours, Dan?
Adam.
Yeah, he's not winning either. So
I never said he was winning, but Jay isn't winning. Adam has a better chance of winning than Jay.
You know who's outperforming Adam? Jay. You know who has more?
You mean where Adam won the first, or was in the first challenge to get a star?
He didn't.
He got a star though. He's at least knows what a star feels like. Jay doesn't.
Yeah.
The only reason that Jay knows what a star is.
Such a good job. Adam did such a good job that his one of his number 1 guys in Steve refused to give him a star.
He said he still wants to go to the final with him. I'm sorry.
If
Steve is going to hand job a star, it's getting to Adam before it's going to Jay.
Hey, What did Flora say to Nicole? Words are words. You see it through action. His words can mean anything. It's all just shit. The physical action is he gave his start to someone in a pimp jacket.
Yeah, because Ace is the dude. How could you not give it to him?
Also, just a side note, what are the betting odds that during that elimination that Ace fell asleep standing up?
It's good odds.
High.
Very high.
Like we're not even saying it's a plus, like an underdog hit, like not even a plus 100.
No.
It's like minus 2,000. It's like a random regular season Nuggets game against the Detroit Pistons.
I think the odds are so high that you're not even allowed to bet on it. Because they're like, yeah, we're not paying out on that. But
I'm like, that jacket did look cozy. I'm like, this dude definitely fell asleep standing up.
100%. We took the break from Brad. We'll get back to Brad. And I just love how it immediately starts out that Brad and Laurel running in front of everyone. And it's just like, oh man, who's going to beat them? Don't worry. Brad will beat Brad.
But also, Laurel, this is why maybe your strategy shouldn't be to have no strategy when picking your partners. Because to be fair, how can you get mad at Brad when you probably had options? But because you decided not to think strategically with who to pick, you picked the dude who was trying to squeeze the life out of water bags when you needed the water bags.
And think about this on top of that. If I'm seeing Laurel and I'm knowing what type of competition this is thus far before hearing part 2, Laurel can run. Laurel's fine. She can knock people out of the way if she has to knock people out of the way to scramble for a seat, which we did see that. She's going to be able to bulldoze some of these girls out of the way to get her spot. So 100%.
I wanted to see someone get clocked. I wanted to see like Keefla like bulldozing his way to a seat, and it's like Steve's in the way. He just goes, "Sorry, Steve." Just like pounds him across the face, goes and knocks him out just so that he can sit down.
But I think if Keefla would do it, it wouldn't be on purpose. Like it would just be his body got out of control and just bowled someone over and like turn around and was really like, my bad, like sorry, but
no, the person who wouldn't do it on purpose is Leroy, who wouldn't even give himself the fake credit of some would think I deceived Brad by having him go the wrong flight of stairs. Nah, I just literally was not listening to what TJ said.
So we have Brad and Laurel out first. Next is Adam and Flora. Then we have Veronica and Handjob Steve, Tina and Keefla.
I'm surprised they got to the third round.
Yeah. Well, they kind of only did because Adam sat in the wrong seat where
You're
Tina
right.
Wouldn't have made
You're
it.
right.
Yeah. Next, this is where we'll highlight it because so the last one out is Derek and Jasmine, and Derek, man, I didn't realize he had that much of Jets.
He was like, you could not have told me that of the field if you were like, who is the fastest person no matter the distance, you wouldn't have said Derek. And I think it just goes to show, and it's something that I really love about the challenge is don't judge. It's like the whole don't judge a book by its cover. Because like Derek isn't this like that he's not a physical specimen. I would say of the people that go on the challenge, he's one of the more like normal body types that you would see for a guy. But hey, it's sort of like that weird thing with track people. It's just like when you're good at something, you're just good at it, and you're almost always going to be good at it. It's not hurdles like he says it is, but I would say even hurdles helps with like just going through the stairs of it all. Or if you had to vault over some of the chairs or whatever, it's like dude had jets. Like he was just no one was gonna outrun him in this competition. And I think that opens up a lot of eyes for people, because one of the things that you should be the most scared of when going into the final is someone who has endurance and jets. Like, and I think he's slowly showing people that he does. And that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, his biggest hurdle, no pun intended there, is just how does he get a star? Because I don't see anyone that's going to give him one that's currently left in the game, which means he's going to have to go down and get it. I do agree with you. I think if he makes it to the final, I think he's a very formidable threat to the field. But I just don't know what his path is of making sure that he can get there.
And
Right.
I think part of it right now is I don't think he wants one right now. Like, he's talking about, like, oh, I need to get one at some point. But I think he's smartly being like, this isn't the time for someone like me to have a star. Like, if I have a star, that's a problem. Like, that's what we all thought was going to be the case when Jasmine got a star. Was like, because typically on like a normal challenge season in the past, if Jasmine had the ticket, every other girl's like, okay, I know who I'm going down into elimination with next time we get a chance, and it's Jasmine. I feel a lot of people would still look at Derek that way because a lot of the guys will just consider, oh, it's most likely going to be something very physical in elimination, even though that's only like half the time. And Brad's like, oh, it's going to be a hall brawl. I know it. And so I'll go down there against him, and then he'll come down. It's a puzzle.
Well, Brad would do that despite the fact if he won, and TJ would be like, listen, Brad, this is the elimination. Do you want to come down? Be like, yeah, I hope it's something physical. It's like, Jesus,
no,
Brad,
I
just
literally
described
just
what it
said,
was.
I literally just said what the elimination is. Yeah, and Brad, you have a star already. Doesn't matter. I'm in.
Let me change into my gear.
My beard doesn't have a star yet.
But yeah, going back to Derek, I mean, I think Derek had the mindset there, let me show people what I have, but sometimes it's not always great to show people what you have, because awesome to win in that scenario, maybe because then you have a chance to go in and earn your star, but then the wheels start spinning in people's mind. Oh, I thought maybe Derek could potentially be some type of layup in the final. Might not be a layup now because he can outrun me. And a lot of it is running. A lot of it's endurance. There's other components to it, obviously, but I don't want to go up against someone that I know can run way faster than I can. If it's even playing field when it comes to running, if you're a little bit behind somebody, you know you can make it up in different types of challenges. But if you know someone can completely outrun you way out ahead, that's scary.
Well, and he's showing that he's at least outside like the first like 2 dailies. He's showing that he can be good at daily competitions, and the components of a final are made more of daily style competitions, not elimination style competitions. So he's showing that he's doing decent in those, and he's showing he can run. That's a final thread. But back to this challenge. So we get those like 5 groups out. It's now time to talk about what phase 2 of the challenge is.
Yeah, phase 2, you're running into a designated section to find a token. You bring the token back to TJ that in exchange for hooks, and then you're just weighing boxes to get them to balance out. And yeah, that's it. So if you didn't get eliminated, you have that 30-second head start. Bottom 5. So the bottom group is the bottom 5. There's 3 that are in the middle. 1 is the winner, and
3 groups are in the middle.
Yeah. Who would have thought that Ace can't pole wrestle for shit, but man, that dude can weigh stuff.
Hey, he part-times as a plunger, and he has a hardware store named after him. Ace is the place for your hardware store, and so all this stuff is very easy for him.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we know from Nicole's track record she can't solve puzzles. And based on what we saw, like, he just dusted everyone when it came to that.
Can we? So when he's in confessional making fun of everyone for not understanding how to do something that he says is so simple, it cuts to Brad trying to put like 3 of the blocks and just on.
It's so
it immediately cuts to that. And I'm just like, Brad, they literally said blocks and hooks. How are you doing this?
It's fitting to what he has been the entire season. You just have to sit here and laugh about it. It's great.
It's because so I don't think anyone's, going to deny the fact that if we're going just strictly off physicality, physical
Oh
eliminations,
yeah.
physical challenges, like Brad probably is still one of the strongest people in the house. But it's just so funny looking back at preseason and everything being like, oh, this could be Brad's, especially before we knew that it was one single winner, because the guys' field just wasn't as strong, especially comparing to the women's field. But the more that we see Brad, it was just like he could get there, and I still don't think he has a shot with what we've seen from him this season.
Like this season specifically, because like we talked about like in past seasons, like like in one of the All-Star seasons, like he was doing some of the puzzle comps and winning them. It was like he should be better than this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's entertaining all the same. But like pretty, at least based off the edit, very quickly behind Nicole and Ace is Jay and Cara Maria.
Mm-hmm.
So like they get second, and Cara is just like, "Fuck, my star's vulnerable." Fuck this.
Yeah, so we see them get second. The rest making up the middle group is Adam and Flora, then Avery and Ryan.
Yep.
And TJ announces that it is going to be a double elimination again, which makes sense because we were episode 6, and I was like, there's still a lot of people here.
Yeah, we had to get down to 16. Have to get down to 16. We're one step closer to the final. But yeah, so we had these groupings. Trying to remember what happens next here. I forget if this is Sauna Gate.
Oh, not quite. We're almost there. So I think it's prior to going out is Cam says that her goal here is she wants to go into elimination and keep Leroy out. And
take Cara's star.
And take Cara's star. Yeah.
But can I tell you what's so funny? And this skips a couple segments, but it's just like so not inconsequential, but I just found it so funny that like she's like, so this is the goal. And then like the rest of the time it's all about Cara trying to pitch to get the two Jasmine and Veronica in to protect her star. And then like just out of nowhere, after like having a solid like 7 to 10 minutes on that being the topic, it's the next morning or whatever, and Cam's talking to Jay, be like, so the word around the like obviously I've heard that the word around the street is they want to throw me in. I'm okay with that. I'm like, Cam, you know what? That gave me such a good laugh. I was just like, Cam's just like, let me see. Let me just see if I just say it that he'll just believe me instantly.
It could have worked. It's Jay. It's quite possible.
Hey, don't talk down on my boy JGMTV.
I love how
he's a step up above Nicole, at least when it comes to the brain power.
I just love how Alex, whenever he gets real serious about Jay, rather than being like first and last name, it's just his Twitter handle.
It's his Twitter handle. That's how we know him by JGMTV. Yeah, I don't remember if there's an underscore in there, but if there is, I'll add to it.
We'll get back to you next week. So yeah, as kind of already mentioned, is Cara wants to throw in the star holders. Poor Kifla, we see him talking to his wife, and as soon as I was like, oh no, this means he's going, isn't he? So that was unfortunate. And just to get it out of the way, we see before moving ahead a little bit, because it'll be the last thing we get to before nominations, is Steve pitches to Ryan, Brad, and Leroy. But then we have Saunagate.
Drop your pants.
It's 1:30 in the morning. We're in the outside sauna.
And then suddenly it's 3 a.m.
And they come trickling back.
Veronica's somehow still up.
Yeah, exactly.
Veronica was listening the entire time.
Or was she an early riser because she went to bed at 7 p.m.?
It's another option.
Veronica loves the gossip. I wouldn't be surprised if she was out there listening.
Like, I'm not surprised Ryan's up. And
no.
He's just like, I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Not even subtle about it either, like, because everyone knows at that point that they're up to no good with each other. But I just, in my mind, I would not want to. Obviously your ex is there. I get that, but maybe figure out shit when you get home. I don't know. Just having it all play out on TV, the whole roller coaster. But like that, viewers want that though. Viewers want to see this storyline. So I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just saying from their two perspectives, hey, maybe this is not the dynamic or situation we should be in with each other while we're trying to win money, you know?
The only thing that's surprising about it is it definitely seems like Laurel is the one that's really pressing this, because in the past we always saw Nicole doing that. It was Nicole first to Cara, then it was to Laurel and Invasions. You look at Vendettas and it's Nicole essentially hounding Melissa until she gives in. So it's a little bit of role reversal.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's also like Laura's like, oh, last episode it was like Laura was complaining about Nicole like shutting it down, be like, she's making a bigger deal than what it really is. So I'm like, no, like at that time, especially looking at it now, like Nicole was right there of like for that brief moment in time. You'll never hear me say those words ever again. But it was accurate for her to be like, this isn't the time or place for me to handle all of this. Like this is a high pressure situation of trying to win a lot of money, and now you're complicating things by trying to rekindle something that we know is toxic. And then the next day happens, she's like, you know what, toxic's fine.
Yeah, but if you're looking at facial expressions too, you can just see it in Laurel's eyes how much she cares for Nicole, and
she's
how much
falling
Nicole
back
means.
in, and Nicole's just like, this is fun.
As long as, you know, Nicole isn't giving her the eyes that was her concentration run eyes when the elimination started, because that shit was scary as hell. Oh, I don't know if you saw it. It was really freaky.
I don't think I did, but I don't want to know. I don't.
Yeah, I don't need to
if you missed it, don't go back. But it's all I could see is as she started to run out. I think it was her being concentrated, but it was like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you getting?
Do we have the time? We don't have the time to go into that further of what's wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave that as. So we'll just move ahead to nominations, and they at least make it quick on the men's side. It's pretty much unanimous across the board that it's going to be Steve versus Kefla. And then we start to have a little bit of fireworks when we're determining which two women are going in.
And you know what? Good. Because I'm sorry, Flora. In a game where the only way you can go to a final is by getting a star, you don't just reward one of the top competitors just like on paper. I'll preface on paper. And like the social like thread of the house, the political thread of the house, because she wants to go in. Like when you have someone there who's like actively saying like, this is why we can't just hand cam this. And here's all the reasons why. And Flora just goes, but she asked to go in, so I have to respect this. I'm like, no, you don't.
Especially because Cam's whole thought process is, I want to go in, but I want to go in versus Tina because she doesn't have a star, because I don't just want a star. I want Cara's star.
Yeah, that's asking for too much, in my opinion. Yes, you can make your pitch that you want to go in, but like, don't say necessarily against who. You can kind of do the little bit of the rumbling, but if they're willing to put you in, you shouldn't care who you go up against at that point, because you want the star regardless. And if you're looking at the field of people that you have the opportunity to go against, you're probably going to go up against someone that you have a good chance of beating in this situation.
So if I was Cam, though, I think the political mistake here, and I think she recognizes this, is instead of like continuing this fight with Cara and like making it clear that she wants Cara's star, she should have made, God forbid, do what Rachel did.
Yeah.
And make an agreement with Cara, be like, hey, I would love to go down, get my star. If you you didn't give me this with Ayanna and Rachel, but if you let me go down against whoever, I don't care. I'll take one of Jasmine or Veronica's stars. Like, no problem. I won't touch yours. We're good. Like, and whether she's telling the truth or not is a different story. I don't care if she would lie to Cara there, because that's just playing the game. But like, you should have played that angle if you know that Cara's going to try to block you out, is make a deal. to try to get it around, because you had the numbers there within that 6 to put you down there if you could have gotten total buy-in. But you chose not to. And that allowed Cara the freedom to take over the deliberation after Ryan makes his choice of siding with Cam and Leroy, and Flora makes the same choice of voting in Tina and Cam. Her and Adam both decide to go on the offensive. Adam's like, are you guys all fucking nuts? Cam's the political mastermind of this house, and you want to hand her a star? What are we doing here? And then like you have like Avery, who's, I think Avery just she didn't have a motive to do either direction. And when you have someone who's being more forceful about it with Cara, I feel like you almost are inclined to just agree with them and let them win the day, because it's just like, look, it is what it is. And Cara at least does also motivate her with a, hey, whatever happens with if I have to go down and I get another star opportunity, the star is yours.
Well, she has that, which is a good pitch, but also because at this point we don't know whereabouts Avery and Adam are. Like, we obviously know that they're together now. We don't know where we're at in that process. So if they're already, kind of flirting and, I don't want to say hooking up, but kind of spending more time together, if we haven't hit that section yet. And so that also could have been part of it too, is that she feels like, okay, like Adam could be her number one, because she just isn't that well connected to most of the people in this house. And this is what he wants. Since I don't really have, really a motivation to go one way or the other, I'll just side with Cara and Adam.
Mm-hmm. But the part of this that I thought was the best, like, actual logical pitch of hers was specifically to Jay, who, for whatever reason, had this thing with Jasmine because of an agreement that I guess they made. And she's like, look, you're saying that you have a deal with Jasmine. She's saying she has a deal with Jasmine. He's saying he has a deal with Jasmine. Like, everyone has deals with Jasmine. So how high are you actually on that? Whereas me and you are together. So you are now actively making a choice of if you want me in your corner, if you want Jasmine in your corner. And Jason logically says, it's like, look, I'm probably on the end of his list or her list. So I can still be a top person on Cara's side, whereas I don't know where Jasmine has me ranked. And that's the issue of, like, while Jasmine is playing a very good social game, the issue of playing good socially with everyone so early is as soon as someone stops and thinks about it, they're like, oh, she's good with everyone, then you're good with no one.
I think it's the stars that really hurt that too, because the fact that there's only 3 male stars, Jasmine and Derek come from the same Real World season. That's going to be a number. With how close they are, you'd assume Ryan's part of that. We know how close Jasmine is with Cam and Leroy. So there's your third guy. That would probably ideally be the 3 stars that they want.
Right. And that situation showcases just the experience that she has in this gameplay. Because think about it, Avery hasn't played a ton, so she can listen into what Cara is saying to her. That makes sense. That's a pitch for her. Same thing with Jay. Jay hasn't played a ton either. So that experience, even though she hasn't played in a while, she still has it in here. She still has the gameplay, because you see how much growth and development Cara's had season after season, getting to the point where she is now, which I think is still her peak, Yeah.
Absolutely. But so we get those results, and it's all star people. And this is where we started having people talking, like, Veronica makes this stupid ass comment calling, what was it? It was a energy vampire. She called Cara Maria, which is what I think probably took offense to on Twitter. You have Nicole calling her selfish, which I think is just Nicole not having enough of a vocabulary to actually articulate what she's maybe trying to say, or maybe she is actually trying to think and say that Cara is selfish. And I'm like, I think every single one of us would be quote unquote selfish like Cara was if you are given a situation where you know that over half the house is against you, your star is vulnerable, the 2 other people who have stars are both vulnerable and actually eligible to be put into elimination. So the one specific way that you can guarantee that your star is not taken is by putting both of them in the sand. if that's selfish, then heck, I'm selfish too. Because as you all like to throw in our faces, this is a game where only one person wins for $250,000. So yeah, be selfish.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't see where the criticism of Cara would be here. She's doing exactly what she needed to do. And you mentioned at the top of the podcast, Alex, of kind of strong arming that deliberation the way that we've seen, Bananas and West do in the past. Hell, we even saw like Josh do it in USA 2.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that she's just like, hey, this is the move. This is what I need to do to protect myself. And I don't think that's a version of Cara that we would have seen in the past, someone who would go over and take over a deliberation like this. So I think Cara, she's firing on all cylinders, and I don't think there's anything you can really critique there of what she's
And it's
doing.
why this season is so fucking good.
Yep.
Yeah. So then we have all that stuff. So that really drives us to elimination. And this is where a lot of my issues come about, because the first part is the Jasmine thing. Jasmine leaves this episode as one of the most interconnected people on the cast without actually knowing like everyone coming in. Like, she managed to put herself in such a great social position early in this game, and it's not really highlighted on until this episode when she's leaving through confessional. And I wish they did a better job of showing how much pull Jasmine had and the stuff that she was working on.
Yeah. Completely agree with that. Just to kind of set it up, the elimination, it's called Rope Rumble. And so there's it's a giant circle in the sand. There's a beam that's going across it, a giant rope that's in the middle that's on top of it. And your goal is to just get the entire rope onto your opponent's side.
Yes. And you can do whatever whatever's necessary. Like, you can wrestle and do all that. But this is where Ace decides his moral compass.
His name's Pimp Jacket.
Yeah, in his pimp jacket. He cannot go down, and he's like, if I could sacrifice myself for one of you two, I would, but both of you would beat me. I'm like, so you would not sacrifice yourself, is what you're saying. And so I love that. I love the contradiction immediately there from Ace, but it's all well intentioned. It's Ace. He just wants to sleep. Then the women happens, and what they don't show you, Nicole referenced it on the podcast on the Zach Nichols podcast, that there was a deal brokered between her, Flora, and Jasmine on like the bus, like leaving as soon as Nicole knew that she won. I guess everyone knew ultimately Jasmine was going in, that she would take Jasmine's spot and allow Jasmine to be safe. Which makes this situation so fucking bizarre. Because obviously they're doing that. She's doing acting here of like, pitch your case for why I should save one of you and put myself down there. And ultimately she picks Jasmine to go up. From there, and I know Scott Yeager of the Challenge Mania podcast also like went on a rant about this. As soon as Nicole touches that sand, the decision's made. It's done. There's no going back on it. That was a horrible call by production to allow a change in a decision, because nothing's fair in Love War and the Challenge. We know that. But nothing is less fair than telling someone that they get to go, they're told to go immediately up the stairs. They don't get to be in that conversation that Nicole suddenly has with Veronica, which is a stupid fucking conversation to begin with. And Nicole going down there being like, you're working with Cara Maria. And what fucking planet does Veronica show that she's working or wants to work with Cara Maria? So one, you're a fucking idiot. Two, if that's all you needed was Veronica to say, no, I'm actively against Cara Maria, for you to change your mind after you spent this time brokering a deal with your mom, Flora, and with Jasmine, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Because, like, just take Veronica out. Because the one thing I can't stand is it gives this high and mighty air of I just made one of the slickest moves ever, where it's the equivalent of beating Derrick Henry in Elimination.
Easy.
It's as easy as beating Danny J in Elimination, Tyree
There it
in
is.
Elimination. Like, all these people that are and whatever in Elimination. That's the equivalent of this move. It's the equivalent of faking out a baby and telling them this vegetable is a piece of candy, and they put it in their mouth.
All right. Well, first, stay away from the Danny Jameson slander. I mean, come on, just look at the stacked opponents he went into in Elimination. I mean, how is he supposed to beat Davis? Like, that just wasn't fair.
I said what I said. But that's like, they're giving all this credit to Veronica. Like, this is why Veronica is such a political queen. And I'm like, it's easy to be a political queen with the person next to you is Nicole. Like, I'm sorry. Both of these people were losing to Nicole regardless. And it does not make any sense to me for Nicole to change her mind outside of her just being dumb or thinking that maybe Jasmine suddenly is an easier person to beat because, like, Jasmine could be quote unquote weaker.
I still think, though, that Jasmine should have had an opportunity to be part of that conversation.
Yep.
Because she should have been able to have a rebuttal in that sense. Because Veronica is able to whisper in Nicole's ear, say what she wants to say privately, without everyone that's up there being able to hear the conversation. And before the decision was made, it was a public thing where both of them were speaking to Nicole that was standing up top. So I think that was unfair to Jasmine because she didn't get to plead her case as a rebuttal to what Veronica told Nicole privately.
Because, like, what do you, like, because based on what we are being told that Jasmine has a pulse of the house. She has all these deals with everyone in the house. We see her actively arguing with Cara on daily on each episode. Like, she has shown and proven that she is actively against Cara Maria. But because Veronica says, oh, I'm against Cara Maria with all my might and being, well, one, there's not a lot of might behind that body. So, like, your body of work doesn't implicate that you can do something about that. So you're suddenly going to choose Veronica, who potentially has less sway than Jasmine does in this specific house. It's idiotic. It's not a social mastermind play by Veronica. And I'm standing on that because who's afraid of her?
No one's afraid of her. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. But I also, I mean, just because Veronica says it, I don't think it's something that's going to be blown out of proportion that after the season.
Derek said it too. People on the alumni and social media bubbles have been saying it too. I just need to bring it back down to size.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
All 5'1".
Yeah, it was, I mean, there's not much to say. I guess I didn't hate it as much as everyone. I understand not liking it because of the situation. It didn't really bother me as much, but I also wasn't giving Veronica really any credit for it either. I just was kind of watching it as it is what it is. Now, to be fair, I was also watching episode 6 about 11:30 last night, so I don't think I was getting much reaction out of anything that was happening, but
the bigger issue is production choosing to let this happen, because I feel there's a part of TJ that would never let this stand. Like, you made your choice, you are in the stand, fucking deal with it. Like, would he have changed his mind if Nicole suddenly said when she was down, like, oh, I actually don't want to compete anymore?
No, he would have said you're already down. He would have said you're already down, guarantee, right?
Well, and Jasmine's already up.
No, and that.
Yeah,
and that's
I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that, like, that anger is towards production.
That's what we're making our point be, because she can't get down there and say, I chicken out, I change my mind, I want to go back up. There's no way that's allowed. It's not happening. So I just, it comes down to fairness for me with Jasmine not getting a rebuttal in the situation, getting to speak her mind, because I guarantee that Jasmine could have very much so gotten herself out of it yet again, and Nicole would have made the same decision that she already previously made, which was to go against Veronica instead of Jasmine.
Yeah,
I'm off my soapbox. Thank you
Oh.
all for letting me have that one.
absolutely. So if we just talk about the eliminations, we know these are the matchups. First, we see Steve versus Kifla, and poor Kifla, he has the hurt hammy. He's feeling a little rough. He's gassed and he's winded. And Handjob Steve is apparently really good at wrestling.
It it requires good hands to wrestle.
It does require
Good
hands.
graps. Some good hand jobs.
The way he was able to grab and rip that rope around, it was just impressive.
It was almost like those zip ties. That the Bulgarian bag.
Yeah, so there really isn't much to say about the elimination. It's just want to acknowledge Kifla. It was someone who I wasn't familiar with. He was such a breath of fresh air this season, and so happy to have him here. Wish he could have been here longer, and we better see him again.
We better. I love that man now. He's on like the postseason 1 Latarian hype for me. I'm just like, I love this man, and he's gone too soon.
Yeah, it was just sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, let's talk about this, because I hope that when they say that, oh, no one was beating Nicole in this, I hope they're only talking about Jasmine and Veronica here, because I see several people that would have beaten Nicole in this challenge.
That's how
Laurel, Cara.
Cam would have beaten her too.
Cam, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Nicole in this challenge beats all the girls that are smaller than her, pretty much, is what I'm thinking. Except, because Cara and Nicole are pretty much the same size, really, right?
Yeah, but Cara's smarter
and stronger would be my guess.
But I'm saying, like, size-wise, I think they're about the same.
Yeah, similar.
The same height.
Similar. Yeah, but like Laurel on paper should handle her.
Mm-hmm.
Cam, I think, would body her.
Oh yeah, Cam, I think, would just slam her, and then it's just like the wind knocked right out of you.
Yep. So she gets a relatively easy win, but like Jasmine does like put up a fight, and that's one thing we always know about Jasmine is, even if she gets dog walked, like you can't say that she doesn't put her like everything into it. So like I can at least always with her like leave her journey on a show being like she tried. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you have to give her more credit than I think even the show allowed her of the game that she was playing this time around. Because I wasn't the Jasmine of old. Like still the Jasmine of old, and like she'll stand on her business and like not afraid of confrontation, but she had a little bit of a game to back it up this time around. It's a shame that it wasn't highlighted more.
Yep, I always love seeing Jasmine on a season, and I'm sure we'll see her again. But she brings something to it every time that she comes, whether it's confessionals, whether in this particular instance, her political game that she was playing that we didn't see, which we should have seen more of, that we touched on. So happy all around that she was on the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Jasmine's someone who needs to be on every season, but you need a Jasmine on every season. You need someone that is her archetype.
Yeah, like I don't need her to ever be on like the main show again, but she can be on All Stars. Yeah. I think it's a good spot for her.
Yep.
But that leads us to our stars.
Yeah, well, so just because Nicole wins, she doesn't have a decision to make. She just takes Jasmine's star. And handjob Steve, he collects his second star, and he says to Adam, as much as I want to run a final with you, and I still want to do that, I'm giving my star to Pimp Daddy Ace.
Who wakes up, he's like mid-sleep when this happens.
Oh, I'd imagine they had to film that twice, that he said it the first time, and Ace was asleep. So like, all right, like someone wake Ace up, like, Steve, do the thing again.
And like, I think this is what I like about Steve is whether it works or not, like he admits like his political game's crap, but I like that he's trying to put thought into these decisions. Like It's like, well, the obvious move is giving it to Adam, but Adam's also like a good performer. So does that like give people a type of signal to go after me and Adam and put us to get like against each other together? Whereas I can just give it to Ace, and I don't think anyone would look either way about it.
I also think that if you're just looking at it from, especially we were talking about the guys. So if someone's going to steal a star, I think Steve is more well connected to the guys than Ace is. So if you have two non-star holders going down into elimination, I don't think anyone's taking Leroy's, like unless something drastically turns. So it puts it between two people, and I think he was thinking, well, Ace doesn't really like isn't that close with that many people. So if they're going to steal one, especially if it's this handful of people, like say it is Adam, because Adam can come down, he's going to steal Ace's star, not mine.
Yeah. So it gives him potential avenues to still hold on to his star. Now he just needs to stop finding himself on the bottom where he's going to keep being put into elimination.
Well,
there's only so many hand jobs he can take.
He'll keep cranking them out. Don't you worry.
With that Bulgarian bag, yeah.
Just zip tying and duct taping people all over that house.
Hey, when the next elimination involves duct tape and zip ties, you know who's winning.
Oh, imagine, that elimination that was Georgia versus Nani back in World of Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. No, I think Steve might be able to be better than Turbo at that. Like, he's done that before, knows how to tape someone down so they can't move.
It'll be him versus Brad.
Brad would just be like, he would do something.
It would get stuck on his beard.
Yeah.
And then he would pull a Chet and say, I quit because the tape got onto his beard.
No, he would do that, but I could also see him doing something stupider of just being like, like I'm really tying their arm down, but doesn't wrap it, like loop it underneath the chair. So it's just solely around like the wrist. All right, sweet, Brad.
And he wins. But yeah, that wraps up these 2 episodes. It's a bigger podcast this week. Sorry, everyone, for the delay there. Just scheduling conflicts last week. But man, what a season this all has been. And what a time to also be a follower of the Reality After Show. A lot of things are cooking right now. We still got, obviously, Challenge All-Stars every week. We'll be trying to do them every Friday or Sunday. We are wrapping up our Survivor 46 coverage these next 2 weeks. Every Wednesday, right after the show. We have the GOAT podcast that's airing for the GOAT with one of the people on that cast, Wendell Holland, as well as Bryce Isaiah and Derek Frazier, Big Brother 23. And best way to support us is to become a patron at realitypatron.com, where you can get more exclusive stuff from our weekly Q&A podcast with Johnny and Matt and friends. There's just a lot going on this channel. So like this stuff, like follow our stuff, subscribe, press that bell, give us the 5 stars if wherever you're listening, if you're listening to the audio version, all that stuff.
Yeah, I would say, there's not much that we can say right now, but definitely, make sure you're liked and subscribed to the YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, because we have a lot of exciting things that we can't announce quite yet, but will be coming soon that I think everyone's going to love.
But with that,
yeah, I think that does it. Alex, Lauren, anything else? Final thoughts?
Just excited for the next episode.
And Veronica's on the Anissa level of hate.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's how I teased it at the beginning. I think it was very clear by the end of it. But she's on that level right now. We'll see if she can get herself off of that list, just like Ace did this episode. So who knows? Follow along to find out.
We will keep track of Alex's Anissa list, as we're going to call it, and we'll keep documenting that. But we appreciate all of you. Thanks so much, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.